Book 1, Canto 9. The Legend of the Knight of Red Cross. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Recording by Morgan Scorpion. The Faerie Queene by Edmund Spenser. Book 1. The Legend of the Knight of Red Cross. Canto 9. His loves and lineage Arthur tells, the knights knit friendly bands. Sir Trevisan flies from despair, whom Red Cross knight withstands. O goodly golden chain, wherewith y fair the virtues linked are in lovely wise, and noble minds of yore allied were, in brave pursuit of chivalrous emprise, that none did others' safety despise, nor aid envy to him in need that stands, but friendly each did others' praise devise, how to advance with favourable hands, as this good Prince redeemed Red Cross knight from bands. Who when their powers, impaired through labour long, with due repast they had recured well, and that weak captive wight now wexed strong, them list no longer there at leisure dwell, but forward fare, as their adventures fell. But ere they parted, Una fair besought that stranger knight his name and nation tell, lest so great good, as he for her had wrought, should die unknown, and buried be in thankless thought. Fair Virgin, said the Prince, ye me require a thing without the compass of my wit, for both the lineage and the certain sire from which I sprung, from me are hidden yet. For all so soon as life did me admit into this world, and shewed heavens light, from mother's pap I taken was unfit, and straight delivered to a Faerie knight, to be upbrought in gentle thews and martial might. Unto old Timon he me brought belive, old Timon, who in youthly years hath been in warlike feats the expertest man alive, and is the wisest now on earth I weene. His dwelling is low in a valley green, under the foot of Rauren mossy hoar, from whence the river Dee as silver clean his tumbling billows roll with gentle roar. There all my days he trained me up in virtuous lore. Thither the great magician Merlin came, as was his use, oft times to visit me, for he had charge my discipline to frame, and tutors nourriture to oversee. Him oft and oft I asked in privity, of what loins and what lineage I did spring, whose answer bade me still assured be, that I was son and heir unto a king, as time in her just term the truth to light should bring. Well worthy imp, said then the Lady gent, and pupil fit for such a tutor's hand, but what adventure, or what high intent hath brought you hither into Faerie land? A reed Prince Arthur, crown of martial band. Full hard it is, quoth he, to read aright the course of heavenly cause, or understand the secret meaning of the eternal might that rules men's ways, and rules the thoughts of living wight. For whither he through fatall deep foresight me hither sent, for cause to me unguessed, or that fresh bleeding wound, which day and night whilome doth rankle in my riven breast, with forced fury following his behest, me hither brought by ways yet never found, you to have helped I hold myself yet blest. Ah, courteous knight, quoth she, what secret wound could ever find to grieve the gentlest heart on ground? Dear dame, quoth he, you sleeping sparks awake, which troubled once into huge flames will grow, nor ever will their fervent fury slake, till living moisture into smoke do flow, and wasted life do lie in ashes low. Yet sithens silence lesseneth not my fire, but told it flames, and hidden it does glow. I will reveal what ye so much desire. Ah, love, lay down thy bow, the whiles I may respire. It was in freshest flowre of youthly years, when courage first does creep in manly chest, then first the coale of kindly heat appears, to kindle love in every living breast. But me had warned old Timon's wise behest, those creeping flames by reason to subdue, before their rage grew to so great unrest, as miserable lovers use to rue, which still wex old in woe, whiles woe still wexeth new. That idle name of love, and lovers life, as loss of time and virtue's enemy, I ever scorned, and joy'd to ftir up strife in midft of their mournefull tragedy. I wont to laugh, when them I heard to cry, and blow the fire, which them to afhes brent. Their God himfelfe, grieved at my liberty, Shot many a dart at me with fierce intent, but I them warded all with wary government. But all in vaine. No fort can be so ftrong, no fleshly breft can armed be so sound, but will at laft be won with battery long, or unawares at disadvantage found. Nothing is fure, that growes on earthly ground, and who moft trufts in armes of fleshly might, and boafts in beauties chaine not to be bound, doth fooneft fall in disaventurous fight, and yields his cative necke to victors most defpight. Ensample make of him your hapleffe joy, and of my felfe now mated, as you see, whofe proud avaunt that proud avenging boy did foone pluck down, and curbed my liberty. For on a day pricked forth with jollity of loofer life, and heat of hardiment, ranging the forrest wide on courfer free, the fields, the floods, the heavens with one confent, did feeme to laugh on me, and favour mine intent. For wearied with my fports, I did alight from lofty fteed, and down to fleepe me layd. The verdant gras my couch did goodly dight, and pillow was my helmet faire difplayd, whilft every fence the humour fweet embayd, and flumbring soft my heart did fteale away. Me feemed by my fide a royal mayd, her dainty limbs full softly down did lay, so faire a creature yet never faw a sunny day. Most goodly glee and lovely blandishment She to me made, and bad me love her deare, for dearly fure her love was to me bent, as when just time expired fhould appeare. But whether dreames delude, or true it were, was never heart so ravifht with delight, no living man like words did ever heare, as she to me delivered all that night, and at her parting said, she Queene of Faeries hight. When I awoke, and found her place devoyd, and nought but preffed gras where she had lien, I sorrowed all so much, as erft I joyd, and wafht all her place with watry iron. From that day forth I loved that face divine, from that day forth I caft in carefull mind, to feeke her out with labour and long tyne, and never vow to reft till her I find. 9 months I feeke in vaine, yet nil that vow unbind. Thus as he spake, his visage waxed pale, and change of hue great passion did bewray. Yet still he ftrove to cloke his inward bale, and hide the fmoke, that did his fire difplay. Till gentle Una thus to him gan say, O happy Queene of Faeries, that haft found mongft many one that with his proweffe may defend thine honour, and thy foes confound. True loves are often fowne, but feldom grow on ground. Thine, O then, faid the gentle red cross Knight, next to that Ladies love fhall be the place, O faireft Virgin, full of heavenly light, whofe wondrous faith, exceeding earthly race, was firmeft fixt in mine extremeft cafe. And you, my Lord, the patron of my life, of that great Queene may well gaine worthy grace. For onely worthy you through proweffe proof, if living man mote worthy be to be her liefe. So diversely discoursing of their loves, the golden Sunne his glistering head gan fhow, and sad remembrance now the Prince amoves, with frefh desire his voyage to pursue. Als Urna earned her travell to renew. Then thofe two Knights, fast friendship for to bind, and love eftablifh each to other true, gave goodly gifts, the fignes of gratefull mind, and eke as pledges firm right hands together joyned. Prince Arthur gave a box of diamond fure, embowed with gold and gorgeous ornament, wherein were closed few drops of liquor pure, of wondrous worth and virtue excellent, that any wound could heal incontinent, which to requite, the Red Cross Knight him gave a booke, wherein his Saviours testament was writ with golden letters rich and brave, a worke of wondrous grace, and able soules to save. Thus being they parted, Arthur on his way to seeke his love, and the other for to fight with Una's foe, that all her realme did pray. But she, now weighing the decayed plight, and shrunken finewes of her chosen Knight, would not a while her forward courfe pursue, nor bring him forth in face of dreadfull fight, till he recovered had his former hue. For him to be yet weake and weary, well fhe knew. So as they travelled, lo, they gan efpy An armed knight towards them gallop faft, That feemed from some feared foe to fly, Or other griefly thing, that him aghaft. Still as he fled, his eye was backward caft, As if his feare ftill follow'd him behind. Als flew his fteed, as he his bands had braft, And with his winged heeles did tread the wind, As he had been a foale of Pegafus his kind. Nigh as he drew, they might perceive his head To be unarm'd, and curl'd uncombed haires Upftaring ftiffe, difmayd with uncouth dread. Nor drop of blood in all his face appeares, Nor life in limbe, and to encreafe his feares, In foule reproch of knighthoods faire degrees, About his necke an hempen rope he weares, That with his glistering armes does ill agree. But he of rope or armes has now no memory. The Red Cross Knight towards him croffed faft, To weet, what Mr. Wight was so difmayd. There him he finds all fencelefle and aghaft, That of himfelfe he feemed to be afrayd. Whom hardly he from flying forward ftayd, Till he thefe words to him deliver might: Sir Knight, areed who hath ye thus arayd, And eke from whom make ye this hafty flight? For never knight I faw in fuch mifeeming plight. He anfwered nought at all, but adding new feare To his firft amazement, ftaring wide With ftony eyes, and heartlefle hollow hew, Aftonifht stood, as one that had efpyde Infernal furies, with their chaines untide. Him yet again and yet again befpake The gentle Knight, who nought to him replyde, But trembling every joynt did inly quake, And faltring tongue at laft thefe words feemed forth to fhake: For Gods deare love, Sir Knight, doe me not ftay, For lo he comes faft after me. Eft looking backe would faine have run away, But he him forft to ftay, and tellen free The fecret caufe of his perplexity. Yet nathermore by his bold hearty fpeach Could his blood frozen heart emboldned be, But through his boldnefle rather feare did reach. Yet forced at laft he made through filence fudden breach. And am I now in fafety fure, quoth he, From him that would have forced me to die? And is the point of death now turned from me, That I may tell this haplefle history? Feare nought, quoth he, no danger now is nigh. Then fhall I you recount a ruefull cafe, Said he, the which with this unlucky eye I late beheld, and had not greater grace Me reft from it, had been partaker of the place. I lately chaunft, would I had never chaunft, With a faire Knight to keepen company. Sir Terwin hight, that will himfelfe advaunft In all affaires, and was both bold and free, But not so happy as mote happy be. He loved, as was his lot, a Lady gent, That him againe loved in the leaft degree, For fhe was proud and of too high intent, And joyed to see her lover languifh and lament. From whom returning fad and comfortlefle, As on the way together we did fare, We met that villaine, God from him me blefle, That curfed Wight, from which I fcapt well ere. A man of hell, that calls himfelfe Despair, Who firft us greets, and after faire areads Of tydings ftrange, and of adventures rare, So creeping clofe, as fnake in hidden weeds, Enquireth of our ftates, and of our knightly deeds. Which when he knew and felt our feeble hearts Emboft with bale and bitter biting griefe, Which love had launcht with his deadly darts, With wounding words and termes of foule repriefe, He pluckt from us all hope of due reliefe, That erft us held in love of lingring life. Then hopelefle, heartlefle, gan the cunning thiefe Perfwade us to die, to ftint all further strife. To me he lent this rope, to him a rufty knife, With which fad inftrument of hafty death That wofull lover, loathing lenger light, A wide way made to let forth living breath. But I more fearefull, or more lucky wight, Difmayd with that deformed dismal fight, Fled faft away, half dead with dying feare. Nor yet assured of life by you, Sir Knight, Whofe like infirmity like chaunce may beare, But God you never let his charmed fpeeches heare. How many a man, faid he, with idle fpeech be won, To fpoyle the caftle of his health? I wot, quoth he, whom trial late did teach, That like would not for all this worldes wealth, His fubtle tongue, like dropping honey, mealth Into the hart, and fearcheth every veine, that ere one be aware, by fecret ftealth his powre is reft, and weaknefle does remaine. O never, Sir, defire to try his guilefull traine. Certes, faid he, hence fhall I never reft, Till I that treacherous art have heard and tride. And you, Sir Knight, whofe name mote I requeft, Of grace doe me unto his cabin guide. I that hight Trevisan, quoth he, will ride Against my liking backe to doe you grace. But nor for gold nor glee will I abide By you, when ye arrive in that fame place. For liever had I die, then fee his deadly face. Ere long they came, where that fame wicked wight His dwelling has, low in an hollow cave, Farre underneath a craggy cliffe ypight, Darke, dolefull, dreary, like a greedy grave, That still for carrion carcafes doth crave. On top whereof I dwelt the ghaftly owle, Shrieking his balefull note, which ever draw Farre from that haunt all other cheerefull fowle, And all about it wandring ghostes did wayle and howle. And all about, old stockes and ftubbes of trees, Whereon nor fruit nor leaf was ever feene, Did hang upon the ragged rocky knees, On which had many wretches hanged beene, Whofe carcafes were fcattred on the greene, And throwne about the cliffes. Arrived there, that barehead Knight for dread and dolefull teene Would faine have fled, nor durft approachen neare, But the other forced him ftay, and comforted in feare. That darkefome cave they enter, where they find That curfed man, low fitting on the ground, Musing full sadly in his sullen mind, His greafy lockes long growen and unbound, Disordred hung about his fhoulders round, And hid his face, through which his hollow eyne Looked deadly dull, and ftared as aftound. His raw-bone cheekes through penury and pyne Were fhrunken into his jawes, as he did never dyne. His garment, nought but many rag clouts, With thornes together pinned and patched was, The which his naked fides he wrapt abouts. And him beside there lay upon the gras A dreary corfe, whofe life away did pas, All wallowed in his owne yet lukewarme blood, That from his wound yet welled frefh, alas, In which a rusty knife faft fixed stood, And made an open paffage for the gufhing flood. Which piteous fpectacle, approving trew The wofull tale that Trevisan had told, When as the gentle Redcrosse Knight did vew, With fiery zeale he burnt in courage bold, Him to avenge, before his blood were cold. And to the villaine faid, Thou damned wight, The author of this fact, we here behold. What juftice can but judge against thee right, With thine owne blood to price his blood here shed in fight? What frantique fit, quoth he, has thus diftrought thee, foolifh man, fo rafh a doome to give? What juftice ever other judgment taught, But he fhould die, who merits not to live? None elfe to death this man despairing drive, But his owne guilty mind deferving death. Is then unjuft to each his due to give? Or let him die, that loatheth living breath? Or let him die at eafe, that liveth here uneath? Who travels by the weary wandring way, To come unto his wifhed home in haft, And meets a flood, that doth his paffage ftay, Is not great grace to help him overpaft, Or free his feet, that in the mire fticks faft? Most envious man, that grieves at neighbours good, And fond, that joyest in the woe thou haft, Why wilt not let him paffe, that long hath stood Upon the banke, yet wilt thy felfe not paffe the flood? He there does now enjoy eternal reft, And happy eafe, which thou does want and crave, And further from it daily wanderest. What if some little paine the paffage have, That makes fraile flefh to feare the bitter wave? Is not short paine well borne, that brings long eafe, And layes the foule to sleep in quiet grave? Sleep after toile, port after stormy feas, Eafe after warre, death after life does greatly pleafe. The Knight much wondred at his fudden wit, And said, the terme of life is limited, Ne may a man prolong nor shorten it. The Souldier may not move from watchfull ftead, Nor leave his stand, until his Captaine bed, Who life did limit by almighty doome, Quoth he, knowes beft the terme eftablifhed, And he, that points the Sentinel his roome, Doth licence him depart at found of morning droome. Is not his deed, what ever thing is done In heaven and earth? Did not he all create to die againe? All ends that was begonne, their time in his Eternal booke of fate Are written fure, and have their certain date. Who then can ftrive with ftrong neceffity, that holds the world in his still changing ftate, or shun the death ordained by destiny. When houre of death is come, let none ask whence, nor why. The lenger life I wrote, the greater finne, the greater finne, the greater punifhment. All thofe great battles, which thou boaft'st to win through strife and bloodfhed and avengement, now praised, hereafter, deare, thou shalt repent. For life muft life, and blood muft blood repay. Is not enough thy evill life forfpent? For he, that once hath mifled the right way, The further he doth go, the further he doth ftray. Then do no further go, no further ftray, But here lie down, and to thy reft betake, The ill to prevent, that life enfuen may. For what hath life, that may it loved make, And gives not rather caufe it to forsake? Feare, ficknefle, age, loffe, labour, sorrow, strife, paine, hunger, cold, that makes the hart to quake, And ever fickle fortune rageth rife. All which, and thousands mo, do make a loathfome life. Thou wretched man, of death haft greateft need, If in true ballaunce thou wilt weigh thy ftate. For never knight, that dared warlike deed, More lucklefle difadventures did amate. Witnefle the dungeon deepe, wherein of late Thy life fhut up, for death fo oft did call. And though good lucke prolonged hath thy date, Yet death then would the like mifhaps forestall, Into the which hereafter thou mayft happen fall. Why then doeft thou, man of fin, defire To draw thy dayes forth to their laft degree? Is not the meafure of thy finfull hire High heaped up with huge iniquity Against the day of wrath to burden thee? Is not enough, that to this Lady mylde Thou falfed haft thy faith with perjury, And fold thy felfe to ferve Jeweffa vylde, With whom in all abufe thou haft thy felfe defylde? Is not he juft, that all this doth behold From higheft heaven, and beares an equall eye? Shall he thy finnes up in his knowledge fold, And guilty be of thine impiety? Is not his law, let every finner die? Die shall all flefh? What then muft needs be done? Is it not better to do willingly, Then linger, till the glaffe be all outrun? Death is the end of woes, die foone, O Faeries Sonne. The Knight was much enmoved with his fpeach, That as a fwords point through his heart did perce, And in his conscience made a fecret breach, Well knowing true all, that he did rehearfe, And to his frefh refemblance did reverfe The ugly view of his deformed crimes, That all his manly powers it did difperfe, As he were charm'd with enchanted rhymes, That oftentimes he quaked, and fainted oftentimes. In which amazement, when the miscreant Perceived him to waver weake and fraile, Whiles trembling horror did his conscience daunt, And hellifh anguifh did his foule affaile, To drive him to despaire, and quite to quaile, He fhewed him painted in a table plaine The damned ghofts, that do in torments waile, And thoufand fiends, that do them endlefle paine With fire and brimftone, which for ever fhall remaine. The fight whereof fo throughly him difmayd, That nought but death before his eyes he faw, And ever burning wrath before him layd, By righteous fentence of the Almighties law. Then gan the villaine him to overcraw, And brought unto him fwords, ropes, poyfon, fire, And all that might him to perdition draw, And bad him choofe, what death he would defire, For death was due to him, that had provokt Gods ire. But when as none of them he faw him take, He to him wrought a dagger fharpe and keene, And gave it him in hand. His hand did quake And tremble like a leafe of afpin greene, And troubled blood through his pale face was feene To come and go with tidings from the hart, As it a running messenger had beene. At last refolved to worke his finall fmart, He lifted up his hand, that backe againe did start. Which when as Una faw, through every veine The crudel cold ran to her well of life, As in a fwoone, but foone reliv'd againe. Out of his hand fhe fnatcht the curfed knife, And threw it to the ground, enraged rife, And to him faid, Fie, fie, faint-hearted Knight, What meanest thou by this reprochfull ftrife? Is this the battell which thou vaunt'st to fight With that fire-mouthed dragon, horrible and bright? Come, come away, fraile feely, flefhly wight, Nor let vaine words bewitch thy manly hart, Nor devilifh thoughts difmay thy conftant fpright. In heavenly mercies hast thou not a part? Why fhouldft thou then defpaire, that chofen art? Where juftice growes, there growes eke greater grace, The which doth quench the brond of hellifh fmart. and that accursed handwriting doth deface. Arise, Sir Knight, arise, and leave this cursed place. So up he rose, and thence amounted straight, which when the Carle beheld, and saw his guest Would safe depart, for all his subtle flate, He chose an altar from among the rest, And with it hung himfelfe, unbid, unbleft. But death he could not worke himfelfe thereby, For 1000 times he fo himfelfe had dreft, Yet natheleffe it could not doe him die, Till he fhould die his laft, that is eternally. Canto 9. Book I. The Legend of the Knight of Red Cross.